Hey guys, it's Teen Wealth here and welcome back to my channel. And if you guys haven't noticed, we actually have a guest here, Kevin.
What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? How are you doing?
Okay, so if you guys are new here, make sure to subscribe. And my content is usually a little bit different, but today we're going to be having a conversation about BitClout finance. Make sure to stick around because we're going to talk about really interesting topics, especially in the end of the video. So let's just get right into it. So first, Kevin, tell us who you are, like what you're all about, what do you do?
Sounds good. Thank you so much for the warm intro, Sabrina. I can actually really quickly kick it off. So my name's Kevin, currently a 16-year-old, actually innovator alumni from the Knowledge Society. I'm going to be heading into my second year into the program there. It's essentially a program, a global accelerator for super ambitious and super motivated people that want to work on sort of huge problems and solve big issues. And we learn a bunch of things from emerging technologies, all the way from artificial intelligence to self-driving cars to quantum computing to gene editing, among many others. I'm actually currently the founder of Kevin 11 Ventures, and we're currently going to be kicking off a bunch of brilliant new things, including startups and a few other personal internal projects. We also run sort of a digital marketing and media agency as well, and consult for a bunch of different clients and startups. So that's a little bit about me. I personally am also like super big into the music space, and I also have a bunch of different interests in a huge variety of areas, sort of like a modern polymath, to so to speak.
So guys, as you can see, Kevin is like talented in every space. Like this man does like comp sci, like business, also finance and music and productivity. That's another big.
No you, Sabrina. No you, Sabrina. Yeah. Stop gassing me up.
So I know you guys clicked this video to talk about BitClout, but we're gonna discuss that later on. First, we're gonna kind of ease into it a little bit. So, Kevin, tell us what your actual YouTube channel is about.
Yeah, for sure. So currently, my own personal YouTube channel actually covers a bunch of different things. But for the most part, I actually focus on tech, productivity, wellness, and education. So you'll be seeing a lot more videos coming out this summer in the next couple of weeks. And we'll be focusing on a huge variety of topics from sort of personal development challenges that I've embarked on. For example, actually, just recently I wrapped up a really quick video on just running and getting into like sort of exercise and like a 7-day documentary journey. That was cool. We also sort of, I'm also looking into covering like a bunch of different like sort of tech products itself. So for example, like a review of the Apple Watch. Also wanting to go deep into like a quick sort of like 5-minute video into just like how artificial intelligence works, and also like a bunch of different other emerging technologies and how that actually will play directly a part into our future, how career options will look like. Also even just beyond that, just like how to actually optimize for like a perfect schedule, not even perfect schedule, but like how to optimize for great days, great weeks, great months, so you can have a great life, right? So that's like what I'm all about. And yeah, that's what my current YouTube channel would focus on. And I actually hope that you actually directly follow over there and check some of that stuff out.
Guys, I'm gonna link Kevin's channel in the bio, and so I'm gonna put up a little on the video, a little video or screen share. So if you can see, he's got like all different types of videos, and I see like one of your main ones is how I built, I believe, how I built a ML breast cancer detection model. So that was really cool. That's yeah. So tell us how you did that, because I'm really intrigued. I could never, but.
Absolutely. I'll kick some of that stuff up as well. But for context, for that project, I actually ended up pulling a really quick data set on Kaggle, and sort of I took the sort of UCI, University of California, Irving sort of data set on breast cancer patients previously. And I really quickly ran a quick 1-2 model through VS Code, and really quickly using Python and a bunch of other like sort of machine learning libraries. And then actually tried to clean up the data, clean it up to the point where I can actually do sort of analysis on that.
Right. No, that sounds absolutely amazing, guys. Like, um, that's like a really big thing. And Kevin has so many different projects. I always tell him like you gotta delegate some things because like obviously we're also students and we have a lot of different things going on. So what do you like to do to delegate tasks and like to manage? Because I know I have not it's not here with me, but I have a bullet journal, and I know Kevin likes to do everything technological wise. I think I myself am a little bit of an old soul. I write everything down with pen and paper. I bullet journal, make it look all nice. I got like little highlighters and stuff. So what do you do? Tell us. I know you're big on Notion. Notion, please sponsor us, but
Notion, please sponsor us. Yeah, no, I will literally take that as the next cue for like my huge rant on like how much I love Notion. Yo, in the past, like I actually discovered Notion in the beginning of the pandemic. So it was sort of like March 2020. And I absolutely fell in love. So since then, since like it's like probably like 15, 16 months ago. But since then, I've migrated my entire like sort of life, school, personal development, like work, everything that I've been doing, like I've just completely migrated over there. And in terms of delegation, actually, like touching upon that, like I am very much of a Notion freak where everything has to go, like I have to translate it into some, I have to write like something, whatever I have to do, I have to write it in sort of a physical form to actually then transfer directly to Notion or like Doist or another app. I also like to use like this iOS app called Drafts, where I can just like quickly note down like a really quick thing, and then just directly transfer that over to Notion right after like I'm actually home or whatever it happens to be. And I think that I've actually built like multiple systems, multiple pages where I can track like even just like my day to day, my week to week, my month, sort of different projects that are going on, and then also like actually invite different team members where people that are working directly with me or for me onto different projects so they can get tracked on like what's going on and what they can get started on. And I have a nice like sort of boards, like there's a multiple views that I have going on there.
Right. So maybe I shouldn't use pen because I go through write out like I go through food. Like I just yeah, I'm always changing things around. You know, it's one thing about me is I try to be flexible. Something that I had to work on. So I'm always using whiteout and stuff. But I also use it to plan my YouTube videos about finance. So talking about that kind of realm. So I was speaking to my dad the other day. I'm like, you should really invest in Bitcoin. And you know, my dad's like different generation, so he's definitely more about the 60-40 kind of 60%, not even like honestly 95% real estate and 5% like stocks, mutual funds, whatever portfolio. But in my mind, let me know what you're thinking about, but for me it's probably, let's say, 60% real estate, 35, am I doing the math right? Yes, 60% real estate, 35% stocks, and 5% cryptocurrency. So that's kind of where my head's at, because especially like there's a stat like most millennials and Gen Z have the most money in like cryptocurrency, which makes sense because we grew up with technology. So when you're like, you know, fully functioning adult, what would your portfolio look like, and what would it compose of?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the point where like it's been like maybe like 1 or 2 years where I've like started bringing sort of additional funds. Like I think like the last 2 years I've been working just like part time this summer as like a lifeguard of sorts. I've also just like done a bunch of different like freelance projects. I've done like sort of internships for a bunch of different people, a bunch of different places, and like I have like a substantial like sort of solid like mini like I guess like rainy day fund that's going on, like sort of personal savings, right? And I think like in terms of portfolio, I can like give more context on like where the money's at right now. It's like it's just sitting in my bank account. I should definitely put those funds directly into like different investments and whatnot and stocks. But I think the personal sort of way I like to think about money, I think I like to have liquidity where a lot of my money just sits either in my bank account or in things that I can easily take my money out of, and actually channel them directly into like investment into myself, like just like investing into like learning programs or things that, or courses or books or like different things that like just like grow my own knowledge base and like my own understanding of the world, which I think is like really cool. On the realm of crypto, and like I know what this channel is about and like whatnot, and like what you guys are probably looking for is that I personally think crypto is going to be a very big part of the future, but with a few caveats. All right, and I think like I want to go deeper into that as well. I know a lot of you guys like have like sort of seen the rise and fall of Bitcoin and like whatnot, but I personally dislike Bitcoin for a number of reasons. And I'll tell you why. Because Bitcoin, like there's a cap on the number of coins, which is fine, but there's also a huge it's very volatile. And I think for cryptocurrency to actually truly be adopted in like our day-to-day life, I don't think it is good for a coin, like a sort of like a fiat coin to be to turn it in like a sort of stable coin to be extremely volatile, where it can be 3,000 one day and 33,000 another day, right? So I think that sort of huge discrepancy isn't great. And on top of that, Bitcoin, there's a huge, I guess, like resource constraint, or also like resource demand to actually have different things and different actions be written on the ledger. So for example, when you're so for transactions on sort of crypto to work, it actually happens through blockchain, right? So essentially when you actually want to buy a coin or actually just sell a coin, you would end up just like communicating a sort of a message directly on the ledger, and someone actually would have to process it and verify and validate that this request is actually valid, right? So for example, that would actually require sort of computing power. So that's where like Bitcoin miners or Bitcoin sort of people like that dedicate their machines directly for mining, sort of that's where it comes on. And the network actually directly pays like a portion of the coin directly to the miners to help them facilitate the transaction, right? But that actually is taking a lot more resources. And think about like the electricity and like the water usage and the resource usage. It's like horrible for the environment, right? I'm actually much more leaning towards the different like sort of newer sort of actually modern coins and different things from that front. And I think like, for example, a good example of this it would be Ethereum. And Ethereum, I actually like it for a number of reasons. Ethereum has the ability to actually leverage smart contracts and leverage different components within that space to actually do much more than just have people gamble on like whether Bitcoin's going to rise and fall. Like a lot of Bitcoin is very much based on like speculation and people just like generating artificial demand. So I think Ethereum comes in a lot more handy. For example, like if you're talking about trying to bring in different countries, for example, there's a ton of problems that blockchain and Ethereum can solve together. So I can give you like another example. Essentially, like if you talk about like different third world countries or like places in Africa, like a lot of the places don't have proper systems and don't have the infrastructure to actually allow you to directly end up like issuing sort of even health records or even just like other be like sort of land wills and sort of land certificates and whatnot. And that's another place where Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, but actually like sort of cryptocurrency and blockchain can actually come directly into play. And sort of blockchain would actually directly allow that to happen. For example, you can set up a blockchain system and then you can directly use Ethereum as like a sort of method to actually facilitate the sort of transactions that you need to make on a daily basis, and actually leverage that to solve problems like, for example, people not being able to access health records really quickly in an efficient manner, or people not being able to like verify that this land that they own is theirs, right? So I think that becomes like a really, really good accelerator in solving like world's biggest problems in the next like 2-3 years. And I think there's people even working on this directly today, right? I know some friends that are currently building like solutions directly to solve some of the like sort of issues that I've brought up like in the past like 2-3 minutes on like my minor rant on why I think like blockchain is good, but why Bitcoin is actually inherently negative.
Right, so I definitely agree with you on the aspect, just to play devil's advocate, that it, environmentally wise, it may be different, but a big thing is that I agree, like right now it's really volatile. As of right now, it's like, yes, a lot of businesses have accepted Bitcoin, around like 23,000 businesses in the US around there are accepting Bitcoin, but the thing, like you said, is even though it's able for transactions, it takes a very long time. So it takes like hours and you have to pay more money for the transaction to be faster, and it's just simply not convenient. And yeah, it will adopt in the future, but definitely for it to, instead of being an investment like right now, and for it to actually be traded as a currency, obviously the government and right now the SEC wants to actually rule a Bitcoin ETF, but that actually got delayed. So obviously it may be a future thing. We might see it later on in the years, but right now it's more of an investment thing. It's whether do you believe in it? Do you think it's gonna be a big thing in the future to invest in it, or just like some people will want to day trade it. But I like how your mindset is only invested in it if you believe in it. So, and on the topic of what we were saying about Ethereum, yeah, if you guys don't know what smart contracts is, I have a video all about Ethereum. I'm gonna link it. Which way is it? I'm gonna link it right here.
Whatever way it is.
Yeah, my video about Ethereum. I talk about smart contracts. So I'll do a little bit rundown of what it is. So let's say Kevin and I, we're currently on a Zoom call right now. So with smart contracts, and feel free to jump in whenever you want, but it basically performs an action. So I guess it's like coded in some way to perform a certain action. And so what smart contracts does is it eliminates all third parties. So right now when Kevin and I are actually calling, the third party would be Zoom. Right now when you're watching this video, the third party would be YouTube. So it completely gets rid of that third party, and it's coded with some mechanism. So there's a trigger action that just automatically kind of codes it. So then, in our situation, the video chat would go on, and it's pretty reliable because no one can change it. That all consideration too.
For sure, right? Like, for example, like another argument that you can bring in is like, for example, I know another friend that made a project in the realm of blockchain as well, where they use smart contracts to sort of actually help people transfer money across continents. So for example, a great example of this is that when you typically, for example, say I want to transfer funds back to some relatives back in China, right? Typically the conventional methods, like you too, right? Like conventional methods will require you to go to bank. You would actually have to just put in like a wire transfer, and then they would have like a ton of fees. For example, if you like want to transfer like $500 or something, it would actually, after the conversion rates and after like the fees that they charge and the long wait times, like 2 to 5 days or something for whatever transactions need to get through, like you'll get left with a fraction of that, like maybe just like 25% less or like 10% less, depending on like the situation, depending on the bank, right? And with smart contracts and Ethereum and like a bunch of other cryptocurrencies, like you can directly facilitate the transaction of like money overseas and like a bunch of different places in like less than a few seconds for like 0.0001% of the fee. And like it's insane, the potential, right? So there's a lot of different things that can happen if we properly figure out like how we can reach consensus on like how do we actually like regulate it, but then also like how to make sure that it's safe, how there's like not any criminals leveraging the system to like transfer and like do like suspect like money trafficking and like whatever it happens to be, right? But like it's definitely a mixed bag that we have to figure it out.
We're talking about cryptocurrency. So how do you feel about BitClout? So describe it for people that don't know who it is.
Yeah, let's actually touch upon BitClout. So BitClout is actually a really interesting, actually sort of new investment creation. But essentially, at the highest level, like BitClout as a platform, they've just essentially tried to figure out a way to help creators get paid for creating content. Essentially, like for example, you and I were on a call, and like they're trying to figure out how to monetize essentially like just like common things that people do in the influencer space. For example, like you can think of it as Twitter, but on steroids. Essentially, like you're linking sort of a monetary value based on that. So on BitClout, like you have user profiles, and and once you get on the platform, you actually create a user coin. And for the user coin itself, every single person has a creator coin, right? It's not a user coin, it's a creator coin. So every single person, they start off at like the lowest level, like it's a dirt cheap coin. You can directly like invest like sort of money into it. But as like sort of, it's a very interesting formula on how they actually calculate the sort of price of your coin. But as demand increases, as the price as the supply like decreases, once you like invest, the more people holding your coin, as the more like, let me explain it more clear, like the more people that have invested and bought your coin, the higher the value is going to be.
Yeah, but I think it's like a super cool concept. And it's one of those things, yes, like with the stock market, there's so many different factors that artificially inflate it. And then when it crashes, it's not really a crash. The market's just correcting itself. But what's cool with BitClout is at some rate, I have, sort of control over maybe my creator coin, depending on my content. So it's like the better, obviously, with being a YouTuber or whatever, you're always going to evolutionize and your content's going to get better and better. So your coin value is just going to go up. So it's one of those things, unless you get into scandal, but it's one of those things where overall it's a growing trend. So it's almost like people that buy your coin, it's like angel investors. They're investing in you or your personal brand, your company. So if they think, hey, I'm going to be reaching like 1K subscribers in a year, then they're like, yeah, she's definitely going to do some cool things and they're going to invest in me. So I think it's such an interesting concept. I should definitely get on that.
Oh, get on, and we'll throw some funds into each other's coins.
Perfect. Perfect. And then we'll just give each other money. But did you say like you can't cash it out yet?
Yeah. So the way that things work right now, the only way that you can sort of bring your sort of like BitClout funds and like coins into the real world, into like fiat currency, like back in like Canadian dollars or like US dollars or whatever it happens to be, is through like OTC trades. And you have to like has to be like someone that verifies it, but like there's a way to bring it off. But you have to do it through like, there's like a sort of complicated like mechanism that sort of exists right now. Like it's like a very very like it's a you can think of it this way, like for example, it's like very much based in trust. But for example, like if I wanted to bring like $10 of Sabrina coin off of like BitClout and translate into real money, like okay, someone else has to come in and buy it for like that set amount, and then a third party has to validate it, right? So that's like the complicated mechanism that exists right now. But the good thing is that Sejal, good friend, he's currently building something out, BitSwap, and essentially you have this like mechanism handled directly through his platform, and it actually gets taken care of with a quick like 5 to 10 minute sort of thing. And as long as someone is like willing to come in and buy it, then it's all good, easy breezy, lemon squeezy. So
okay. Yeah. So you need someone else to take it off of. So if it was Teen Wealth coin, Kevin coin, we have to have someone else take it off of my hands or your hands to actually convert that into correct currency.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like it has to be someone that like realizes the worth of it and like acknowledges that it's worth that much, that they want to pay for that. And then also there has to be like a third party that verifies, like an OTC trade, where like they verify to make sure that like that the transaction like is valid at the end of the day. So like the third party is just making sure, like facilitating the transaction to make sure like people's not dipping and like trying to stay in the currency without paying for it, or like vice versa. So yeah.
And it's not just like BitClout itself that's doing big things, but like you said, like with other, startups or other people can also create an add-on thing. So there's definitely a large room for adoptability for that.
There's a huge community that's booming on there. I personally, I'm currently not focusing my efforts into it because it's like it's a whole big kerfuffle to get yourself in there. And once you're in there for good for the next like few months or even few years, depending on the project that you decide to take on. But it's kind of crazy, yeah.
Once you're on there, so it doesn't take into consideration like your past content. You just start, everyone's on the same playing field, and then once you're on, then you create videos, create content, whatever, and then that determines your value. Okay, awesome. So what would say like make your
Sabrina,
we're gonna talk about what we want to say to our future selves. So Kevin, you go first. I think
I think what I would tell my future self is that like I'd ask a few questions actually, but like I first like start with like a nice hi, like it's like how are you doing? Like, but like how are you actually doing? Like, are you genuinely happy? Are you doing things like for you, or are you doing them to please someone else? Right? Like it's like you had all these like dreams, goals, ambitions, like currently in the present state, like when you were 16, right? 16-year-old Kevin. Like I'm thinking like 10 years from now, like am I living up to the potential or living up to what I saw myself as, or like what I thought that I was going to do or wanted to do? And like what am I like holding back on, or like what is the missing piece between like what I envisioned myself for the life as and what actually happened, and why, right? And like for example, like I'll be 26 in 10 years or something. Like they'll probably be like maybe like assuming like some catastrophic incident doesn't happen, like life is always like day by day, but like for example, like if I were to die at 26, it's like would I be okay with that? Like would I have lived a life that was like meaningful to me? And like did I spend like the next like 10 years doing something that I cared about, like impacting people and like helping people and solving problems and like creating some sort of change and like reducing suffering and trying to bridge gaps that I see in the world today? Like if the answer is yes, and like I would be okay with like dying on the spot, like when I read the letter, then yeah, no, like I think that's all I would have to say. Like I think I would be satisfied, and I would just personally be happy and satisfied.
want to make impact also made me really think like what was the point of teen wealth. And I think the biggest thing is, a little side note, so then my thing for I want to ask myself in the future is, have you helped people learn about finance and education? Because the whole point I made this channel was I'm watching like all these finance YouTubers, they're saying these big words, mumbo jumbo. I'm like, what are you saying? I go off, I do my own research, and the thing is I have to take time to do that. I have to take like an extra hour, extra 30 minutes, but what can I do to break down these topics and make it so easy for people my age or even like young adults and millennials to understand, because a lot of them even don't know. So future me, have you really made an impact? Have you really, because financial literacy, like you said, that's a big gap. Has the financial literacy percentage went up? Are more people educated? Are more people investing? Do people know how to build wealth? And is the rat race still a thing? Because now it's just 9 to 5, paycheck to paycheck. And sometimes I'm just scared. Like I have so much ambition and drive now. Is that, am I ever gonna run out? Like is it a car that's never ending? Am I gonna like just be burnt out? Am I just gonna run out of this? Like you said, like the whole topic about motivation, am I ever gonna run out of it? So that's just my biggest thing. I'm honestly like scared of where the future is gonna take me. I just really hope this ambition keeps going. I've always had a hard drive. I'm like, is it ever gonna run out? So that's the biggest thing for me.
That's crazy. I personally think it will keep running, Sabrina. I think you'll be crushing it. Like I can just like see it in my mind. I think you'll be crushing it. Like I can just like see it in my mind. Like 10 years from now, you'll be crushing it with Team Wealth, and hopefully it can even just like be rebranded as something else that is like, I think like even just like a bunch of different other channels, and like having a massive global empire digital home, And like even beyond that, just like traveling the world, doing what you see fit, and like not having to participate in the 9 to 5 that you don't like, right? And being able to create impact in whatever way that you see fit, which I think is like definitely something that I envision in my mind, and I definitely am very much looking forward to what you are going to create in the next little bit.
My future employers are looking at this like, you don't want to know. Like, I know you're gonna be doing like big things. You're already starting young, and I feel like you're gonna have a multi like media like whole brand with so many different branches. But I trust that you'll be able to delegate into which is most important to you and not to overwork yourself. So guys, on that note, make sure to check out Kevin's podcast, YouTube, all TikTok. We're doing a TikTok lab. All the links in the description box below. And if you have any questions,
And I'll link a bunch of different websites that we have going on too, and a lot of different like sort of upcoming launches that you can see fit.
perfect. So I'm gonna link that below, and then I'll see you guys next week because I post every single week. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and also subscribe to educate yourselves. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.